Welcome to the final live for Our Future 2025. I appreciate you all being here, taking the time to be with us. These are pretty trying times that we live in. These are difficult times, and for many folks, they have to break from what they're doing, and then it's like a dead stop. They have to stop things, and then they have to start new things, and then create momentum. Momentum is the key to everything, especially with running a business, especially with habits. Let's say you never gain momentum with working out. Well, you might be going to the gym off and on for years and never really have that physical change that you're hoping to create. It's in the compounding daily or every other day effort, constant effort that builds these dreams, that builds these businesses, that builds our better selves as well. So I'm really excited today to talk to you about building our momentum. I want to thank our sponsors before we get any further. We have such incredible sponsors. We have LW Scientific, Terraganics, Hawassi Product, Acres USA. We grow with Fungi Perfecti, Microbiometer, Catalyst Biomemist, Permaculture Magazine, Extreme Gardening, Blue Sky Biochar, and Bokashi Earthworks. I thank you all for being here, for participating this whole week. It has been an absolute joy to be with you and to spend the time together, strengthening our community and listening to so many speakers. Oh my word. If you've missed some speakers, it's okay. If you want to watch something again, it's okay. We got a replay day tomorrow and the day after. I really wanted to go extra this year. I know Chris Trump is like, sometimes we do things that's exactly why I do this event. If you talk to my mentors, they would say, "Oh no, just 3 days, Matt. You only do a 3 day conference, not five. No, no, no." And then they would be like, "Oh, you don't do replays. Sorry. No, 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 don't do that. It's all live that day, and then it's gone." And I'm like, "Oh, but I want it to be a gift." So I'm not about creating that pressure. I left my drink in the other room. I'll be right back. We're gonna be doing the work together, so I need to hydrate and stay hydrated. I hope that you all have water or something to drink. Hope that you have something to write with because we're gonna go deep today. I knew momentum was something I needed, and I didn't know initially how to establish it and how to grow it. But as you start a business, you know you need momentum because otherwise you're living month to month. Like literally, momentum in your life could be health. It could be spiritual strength. It could be happiness and joy. It also could be that you make your bills every month, right? Momentum is that. You're carrying through to the next level, to the next season. But there's something that's buoying you up and carrying you because you've done the work. You've created a buzz. You've created a momentum. I've come too far. I've done too much work. It's my time now. I'm ready for this. I'm hungry for this. I know this is what I need to do. These kinds of words, these kinds of statements, these are keys to opening ourselves up to the next level. But before we get any further, who am I? I'm Matt Powers. I'm the host of Our Future. I'm an author, an educator, a seed saver, a gardener, a market gardener for seeds. And I just kept scaling up and building more and more momentum. And then the momentum carried me into the most wonderful, unexpected places. And that's really what happens is that You begin to live this extraordinary adventure of a life as momentum begins to build. It's not just that like their sales are more consistent, but your social capital is more consistent. You're around better people. You're around amazing people. You're getting invited to go talk to crowds of amazing people. Like here we are, you know, and it's that momentum that builds and grows. So I knew that this was key to my journey. I knew that this was a huge part of what I needed to do. And so, who am I? I initially was a ski racer. I blew out my knee. I then through everything, all that training, all that, we would train every single day of the year. And the off season was like serious training too. And when I switched all that energy and focus and all that training, mental training to music, I became a professional within 2 years. And I was playing with like Saturday Night Live's drummer, Sean Pelton. I was playing with Blondie's keyboardist, Matt Katzbone. Still talk to them both regularly. And I propelled into music. My wife, while I was a musician, got cancer and lost her thyroid. And then 3 months into the radiation treatment, got more cancer, different form. And then a month later, got another form of cancer. Well, another bout of the second form of cancer. And so she had to do all these surgeries over and over and over again in a quick succession. It was really, it felt like it wasn't going to end, or it was going to end. You know what I mean? It felt like the cancer wasn't going to stop until it killed her. And as a young father, that completely changed my life. And I made the decision that whatever I could control, I would do in my power to make this better. And that meant food and our like products. So like because once you discover like the EWG, you're like, wait, everything's poisoned? Yes. Yeah. So the EWG is a great guide. They're a group, Ken Cook's group of scientists have been testing products for years and showing and then giving ratings on good ones and bad ones and why. So, so it's really, really great. I love it. That transformed me and made me go on this journey that eventually led to me quitting the music industry, becoming a full-time substitute teacher for 4 years, teaching anyone and everyone in Madera and Fresno, because, you know, sometimes I would sleep late and then whoever was available, I was going to take it because those jobs go whoop, 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 and then disappear in the morning. That's what happens with the subs. So I just took whatever I could get. And then also I started noticing that there were underserved areas and there were stereotypes and terrible things said about some of these schools. And I'm like, they're kids. And it's like, I worked nightclubs in New York City. So Fresno doesn't intimidate me. I walk into that classroom, it's like, yeah, like I worked in a place where, we would go out in a group at night after that 5 a.m. and we'd have to leave as a group because if you left alone, you'd be jumped. And so like I'm gonna go to the school. It's they're that's the children of the people I was dealing with. You know what I mean? I didn't care. I was ready to teach their kids and have a great time. And that's what I did. I fell in love with teaching. I started very nervous though. I would show up like with a guitar and be like, "Hey kids, do you know Stone Temple Pilots?" Like just totally off the wall like And then I was like, and you know what, kids? My dream is to be a musician. Like literally, I started being like, I'm only doing this temporarily. Right. And then I became a full-time teacher. And I fell in love with teaching even more and became a teacher of teachers. I got my master's degree in education. And then I started writing curriculum for all my kids because we didn't have textbooks in the school. So I did everything online, just like I'm doing online education now. And I wrote curriculum, just like I'm writing curriculum now. And so it really started there, and then recognizing that I was going to be stuck. And just like my wife, the whole cancer thing, there seemed like a dead end there financially. When you go into debt on credit cards for food, like organic food and, alternative medicine and all these amazingly expensive things as a young person, and then you work at a job that doesn't pay hardly anything like teaching, you're screwed. And I was screwed. I was already living rent free. And I did never knew how I was going to be able to pay rent. So I'm living rent free in the in-laws' garage, concrete floors with peeling black paint. We got a toddler. Not good luck. Not a good look. And so we're paranoid about everything at this point too. So we're like, and then like we were cooking on for the first 3 years there, cooking on, this is so bad. We were cooking on a camping stove and we burned through all the metal of the camping stove because we used it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so where did the metal go? Right. We didn't have like an overhead like fan or anything. We were really young and it's the sixth most violent county in America that I was teaching in. So the surrounding areas, they're probably not going to be like well to do, and everyone around you is not going to be like, this is the exact safe way to do things. So we just didn't know. And so we've had to go on this huge journey, and I started writing books. I did online courses. I told you about that fail upward into doing online courses because I was like, I can do books. I always wanted to be an author. I could finally like become who I really wanted to be because I went to NYU for writing and tapped out all their undergrad courses. And I can say this without, I know I was the most prolific. I was ridiculous. I would just pump out 20 pages a day. The teachers were like, all the other kids were like they hated me. Like I had a few friends who were like my friends, but also like they were like competitive. And I just always have been able to just to have this flow and creativity. Just like my son. I mean, my son's on his seventh album. He's actually on his seventh, eighth, and ninth album. He's concurrently creating them and mixing them. They're just different genres. And so he gets it from somewhere, right? And so that I always wanted to be a writer, always hoped to be a writer. I feel terribly at a writer, even though I was so prolific and everyone was like, I could do all of the bits, but it wasn't serving the need that people had. So what happened was I really focused on my family, really focused on permaculture, really focused on my students, then focused on my larger audience to serve them. And then I asked the question, what should my next book be? And it was and people suggested soil. And so initially the Kickstarter was permaculture soil science. And if I had done regenerative soil, it would have been way bigger, way bigger. But it hadn't occurred to me yet. I was still in the permaculture like mindset strictly. I put permaculture in front of everything at that point. Permaculture gardening, permaculture this, you know. I see Sean laughing. Thanks, Sean. He was there when that was going on. And so it was a time period in soil science when it was theory versus like the struggle between reality. And so you had all these folks that were like, "Oh no, anaerobes are bad." And then you have all these like natural farmers being like, "What about my ferment?" And then the answer from the dogmatic absolutists were like, "You're bad." And then it became this like moralist thing where it was like, "You're spreading anaerobes, terrible." And it was like, "Whoa." And so I felt like I'm friends with both sides. I'm friends with like the Elaine folk, and I'm friends with, the Bokashi folk. And I'm friends with John Kemp all of a sudden at this point. And everyone is like, because the way I learn is like mostly one-on-one mentorship when it's from these kinds of people. Sometimes you see that learning when I do podcasts. Sometimes I'm really wanting to showcase them in the podcast, and I'm asking questions that are super generalized that you're like, I read Matt's book. He knows what that is. Why is he asking that question? Because like with John Kemp, I had already heard that story, right? I wanted him to tell you that story. So so I'm at this point where I'm getting so much feedback from so many different people being like, yeah, that won't work on that. And I'm like, okay. But then I talked to like Chris and he's doing that. Reality hits. And I'm like, how is it that you're doing this? And he's like, oh, no, this is how it works. And then it's like he has like farm after farm after farm for 10 years of experience. And they don't have E. coli, they don't have like problems. There's no like pathogens, right? In fact, it's like Chris Trump's ferments and then EM1 and all these things are fixing problems, not creating them in practice. And also, I also noticed something, and maybe you guys noticed too, the people that were doing this stuff were totally unfazed by the dogma, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? People were like, that's poison. They're like, is that what they said? Okay, well, I'm gonna keep doing the work. Right? Right? They just kept doing the work. Chris Trump, all the people doing Bokashi, all the Terraganics, you know, uh, Dr. Higa. It's like unstoppable because they are living in the reality of it. And so I really wanted to ground the realities into the principles that underpinned them, that made them true in the contexts and the applications and the methods that they were using. That was 5 years ago that I published that book. It was about a year of prep and then 12 months of writing. And that's how I created regenerative soil. It was this culmination, but I never expected to end at soil. This is the thing about building momentum. Momentum literally begins to carry you through. And this is why people, when they establish momentum, start using words like destiny and fate because they feel like something is there, something's happening. And it's wild. I am here to tell you, but it's living in alignment, is what it really is. Because there are times that I don't feel it because I'm not in alignment. I'm like, I need to do my meditation more. I feel, and guess what? You want to get out of an alignment? What do? Stay up really late for a few nights in a row if you're over 40. And then you're like, oh, ah, and you turn right, and you suddenly become cranky. No, I get it. I'm turning 43. I get it. But we have this option to take much better care of ourselves as the new generation of 40-year-olds that have biohacking and greater knowledge on how to do this right. And you may know friends that like increasingly 40 is like the new 30 because of these practices. No. Should see some of these 40-year-olds fight. Yeah, and I only see this because my son's like, that guy's 40, dad. You could be like that. I'm like, I don't know, actually. Doesn't remember all those years that I was not healthy. I wasn't robust yet. I and then I show my son like physically the size of my bone compared to his, and like trying to explain to him the reason Conor McGregor most likely broke his leg when he did was because he kept doing the not the cleansing, the weight drops. He kept dropping weight so much that he became so skinny he was eating from his bones. That's partially how I got through it. Yeah. And so that's why I have to lift. I have to do those kinds of physical things to rebuild like my bone density. Cause and that's part of why I have teeth problems because when you don't get the nutrition through your stomach, it robs it from your bones. Yeah. Anyway, tangent, Matt. Probably too much information, but it was this journey. I've been on it and I I'm so grateful for all these things that happened. And it was this turning point in my career where momentum began. And that momentum has carried me and increased with time. So one of the things that increases momentum is showing your aim. So I expose my goals when I do these Kickstarters. Have you guys seen those like YouTubes where like this year, don't tell anyone who your what your goals are. Go dark. And you're like, I don't know. Matt's saying like write it down and share it with people. Guess what's going to create accountability? Sharing it with people, writing it down, make it commitments to yourselves and others, and then honoring your word, doing the work. And not only that, thinking big. The 10x exercise we talked about earlier this week. Why do you think I did that? Because I wanted you guys to already think that and then recognize that creates momentum when you speak like that. Because whenever I talk about the regenerative soil trilogy, there's I haven't written the third book. I've done a bunch of research. I've got a bunch of data, but watching Stephen Russell and Mycota Lab add in the lumen unit and get full genome sequence reads, I'm like, okay, I want to do that, you know? And I'm watching Stephen, watching him collect, and I'm like, maybe, well, I know that my next step in that is doing an interview, maybe several interviews with Stephen, 'cause Stephen's totally open source too. Very, very open. He publishes all his protocols openly. And his database can be open. So I really want to support that. I really like where he's going. And I also really love how brass tacks he is. He's like a no nonsense engineer mind. And so typically those kinds of people initially have an irritation when they meet me. They're like, but he seems to tolerate me pretty well. So we'll do an interview. You guys know what I'm talking about. The people that are really brass tacks, you know, they want to talk about the technical, but he gets the larger community, probably because he's a dad. You always see his picture with the kids, you know. But he has that community mind. He has that larger picture mind. He partners with some very creative people, but he has it locked down in many ways. And so that's why, you know, after Laura Kavanagh, you know, shared our soil, I was like, check out Steven, you know. And so I'm working on that too, but you guys see the full arc, and you saw the full arc of the trilogy 5 years ago. And that because I was talking 5 years ahead in time, everyone started in alignment with their understanding and belief and support and energy. I believe that there's this unquantifiable aspect that is energetic. And I'm not trying to go woo on you, but this momentum is within us and it's also with like outside of us. And as regenerative soil began like doubling people's harvests and like unlocking people's soil, because what it was, regenerative soil, because I went down to the principles behind all those wonderful people, John Kemp, Elaine Ingham, Chris Trump, Olivier Housson, all these like amazing people, we got to see why they're great, also how they're different, and I had to go down to the biochemistry. So then, thus, I mapped out and I made it visual because that's what I do as a teacher. The chemistry and the biology. For the first time, they were connected. The bridge was made, and no one had made it visual. You can go to grad school texts and you can wade through it, and it's so full of minutia, so full of just like noise. And no one had made it clear. No one had connected these things in a way that was empowering. And my whole thing was if it doesn't actually link to an action a farmer or a gardener can take to make the situation better, don't put it in the book. Because why would you? Be like, yeah, you know, sky's getting bluer. You're like, what the heck does that have to do with anything? It's like I can't do anything about the sky to be on bluer or not. You know what I mean? I'm not suggesting anything in particular, but maybe that wasn't a good analogy. But my point is that like we got to control the things we can control, and there's so much in soil science that literally has no actionable aspect to it. It's just information and observation, and it's not useful, not actionable. You can't do anything about it. You can't affect it. So I left all that out. And no one, because of that, no one had gone to that level of clarity because they weren't thinking about. So it's literally like I talked about with this, right? I'm like, this is how I think. This is literally professionally how I was trained. What's the standard that we're trying to teach here? What's the rationale behind why you did it this way? What are the objectives from the lesson content, activities, and assessments? And these things have to be directly aligned, almost stupidly aligned, where you're like, this is who it is, this is what it is. And then you're like, who is this? What is this? Like, we have to be so clear and then make them perform and showcase that they actually can do it or showcase in an application or a novel situation that they actually can use it. I mean, we might be talking grammar. We need to let them use it. There's not much action there other than on paper. But my point is that I have been steeped in this world of clarity because it's the only way that I could verify that the teachers I was teaching were actually going to get the results that I was saying that they were going to get. Think about this. I taught teachers to get rid of homework. And you might be like, oh, I'm forcing my kid to do 2 hours a night. I taught them that that was A, they're paid to do the job in the time period they were allotted for. All of us have to do our job in the time period that we're hired, and that's what we do. We don't push our job onto the parents of the consumer, right? No, no, no. The recipient should receive and get an authentic education and not need to go home and then like do drills on it. I mean, if we go out into the woods, we go chop wood together, you're not going to go home and do like a worksheet and then bring it back in for me to sign and grade. No, the experience was there. We go into the garden, we plant seeds together. I'm not going to like quiz you later and be like, now, which finger do you use? No, it's nothing like that. You may plant seeds totally different from me, but you get it. You know what I mean? So, I really value that alignment. I really value the assessment, the actual proof that you actually understand and are able to do it. Some folks have actually taken some of my courses and they're like, wait a second, you want us to like do it? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, do the pitch. And they're like on camera? Like you're gonna do advertisement for your business on camera, right? They're like, well, yeah. Like pitch to us in the community, right here in the privacy of their community where it's safe. Do the with the safety net. Do it with us first, and then go out and do it. Stand and deliver. It's how I've been doing everything, and it's in that moment when you're actually in it and you've invested and you're holding yourself accountable that the greatest learning is. This is why I invited you guys to that mastermind. We'll talk a little bit about it later after the lesson, but it is that accountability when your feet are wet, when you're in the water, when you learn to swim. Yeah, we've got a lot of things that we got to learn before we go in the water, maybe, safety and just like general knowledge about like, but you learn to swim in the water. And with entrepreneurship, you learn in the water. And it's very important to recognize that you're not alone. I felt very alone when I started out, and I was really lucky that Jeff Lawton kind of took me under his wing. It's not public, really, but like Jeff is the person I met my printer through, right? The printer I've been using for 10 years is the same exact lady. Her daughter now works in the office. And so I work with her and her daughter. They're the ones who taught me how to format books. They're a printer that took the time to teach an independent guy. So anyway, my point is that it's the community and the relationships, the social capital that Dustin was talking about earlier today that has carried me with that momentum to where I am. And it is the quality of these relationships that carries us through. So I focused on clarity. I created this momentum. And then again, because I'm nesting, and if you're in permaculture, you know the patterning and everything. There's the Russian doll nesting pattern, right? That's what I essentially did with regenerative soil. Regenerative soil is the outer one, and then the inner doll is microscopy, and then the inner doll is the DNA. They actually don't go one, two, three in a linear line because you always they're all encapsulated in each other, and you actually refer back to the first book to even understand the other two and understand what to do with the information that you gain from the other two. So they are very much in that pattern. And I don't know any other book series that's like a trilogy that makes you have to go back to number one. But I grew up reading a lot of Choose Your Own Adventures, and I love the recursive patterning of so many of those kinds of things. And so it works. And if we follow those patterns of nature, we find that so many of our human systems uh, find a new way of working. And and so this momentum opens up new doors, it opens up new thinking. And when I tried to do the microscopy course initially, I didn't realize that this was going to happen 10x. So when we begin the path opens. Have you guys heard that before? Like we start on the road and the road appears. You take those first steps, in faith, and those the answers come. That's what momentum does. So at this point, I'm 23 books in. I've got all this momentum socially in the community with my work and study. I've written all these things, studied all these things, and the microscopy is like a left field, like total new area for me. And it's like lenses and magnification and light. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot like photography combined with light physics. And I'm like, this is kind of heady stuff. And then I realized everyone had left it alone, and there was no soil microscopy book. And then the books that were out there were like geology, soil microscopy, and they are like words and black and white pictures. And I'm like, where's the biology? And it didn't exist. And so it's like the closest we got was like Jeff Lowenfels, right? And he's talking about, he's got a couple pictures, right? They're all from Elaine. You know what I mean? And now his new pictures from James White, right? And it's like there's this bottleneck, and I'm like, no one's really done it. And then there's courses at this point, right? There's Elaine's courses. I took the advanced microscopy course through the Australian company she partnered with. But I took that after I had written Regenerative Soil, so I was already informed enough to be like, uh, and so I had a lot of like I realized like this was like so it was so needed, and as I took Elaine's course it became so obvious how we were just like missing the boat, and how all the testing, the reason people were confused because the tests themselves were misleading. And so I started looking at university and graduate school and doctorate programs and studying PhD journal publications. And again, I realized no one was showing their work. All the images are like blurry and pixelated. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're not showing it so that you don't argue with them. Or they're doing microscopy and then they put a chart up. Yeah, we did the work on the microscope. Here's the chart. What? The chart? Why don't you want to show me it? Because then you could be like, that's not that. What are you talking about? Yeah, so it was wild. It was like they put Vaseline over the camera or something and took pictures of their microbes. It was bizarre. And so I was like, what's going on here? It's like no one has any clarity on like what like testing would be clear. And so I began to take this on deeper and deeper. And if you guys know, you know what I mean, the nature of tenure. the nature of university science currently. It's like, like 50 to 60% of, depending on which science branch of science you're talking about, is totally unreplicable, is totally fake, designed simply to keep their tenure and keep their job and their health insurance for them and their family, right? So it's not designed properly. University science, I mean, it's all funded by the wrong people. They're really like large hedge funds in most instances. They're really just financial institutions that, you know, run kids through dormitories. So so there's a lot of people really upset about this because, they weren't always like this. And there's some places that have programs that are not like this, but a lot of them are. And so you have a lot of people very mad about this. And the reality is they've burned their bridges. Medical science right now has really burned their bridges too. People don't trust them any longer. It's like, we'll trust you to like sew me up and give me stitches, but that's about it, right? You know what I mean? We're really skeptical right now, but it's not just them. All like the sociologists, all the psychologists. It's like none of the stuff's replicable. And then you find out about these like classic tests, like the prisoner guard and prison guard experiments, and they totally like directed those. They totally they purposely screwed up and skewed the testing. So there's a lot of that. And so you have a lot of people that are questioning, and I was in the middle of that with soil science. And because of there was so much momentum, so much support, I felt like I could do this. And it was audacious. Like, Matt, are you got a PhD? Matt, how long you been doing microscopy? Matt, I mean, who gave you permission to do this, right? And it was just the ability for me to use clarity to showcase in a way that a person in an elevator, I could explain how all soil science is mathematically wrong, right? Like I could just explain it to them. So we're baking the soil in the universities, and that removes the soil structure. So where did the air go? And then we're weighing out a gram. Wait. Some soils are heavier than others, right? Mm-hmm. Some soils are lighter. So a gram, even taking the whole air thing out, because healthy soil is structured, so it can have air pockets, interstitial air pockets. So this interstitial air is 50 to 60% of good soil. So now we take the number of, or they're counting something or measuring something, and then they multiply it up to an acre from the gram. And they're like, and that's not real, because you could take off in a plane, and if you're 5 degrees off with your your calculations, you could end up in the ocean, in the side of a mountain, on a different continent. You know what I mean? And so this whole methodology of math behind, and Elaine Ingham's method originally was tamping it down to the bottom part of the test tube and then adding. Where did the air go? Oh, she removed it. And then displacing is what she does now, her people do now, and that displacement removes the air even more efficiently. Hmm. And then try to just dribble, clayey soil into a test tube and hit exactly 1 ml. I dare you. You're going to be frustrated, and it's going to take you a lot of extra time. For me, when I figured all this stuff out, it because there was this momentum, because there was all this support, because I had the social capital momentum too. What happened was I had the social capital momentum that turned into the Kickstarter with $86,000. And, there's a huge chunk of that gets cut off by Kickstarter, just so you know, before the taxes even hit. Just so you know, so you create a buffer. If you do that, create a big, big, big buffer. Um, but I bought all the crazy books. I always say, like, don't tell my wife because I write in the books, so we can't resell them. So some of the books are $450 used for a single book, and I might cite a few paragraphs. Don't tell her, please. And so, but they were really important because they were the way that I could corroborate across all this stuff. And when it's Bergies and there literally is nothing above this. Globally, this is the official authority in bacteria across all sciences, across all over the world. It's in all these different languages. This is it. And I don't know if you noticed, but volume two, part C. So volume two had part A and B. And one of these things is hundreds of dollars. So I took the bath because of that social capital and trust. I was like, they want me to do it. They want me to go. And this is like this is why they gave me the money so that I would do all the research, so that I would buy those I would get past the paywalls that are holding all of us back from the real information. So that's what I did. And so I started collecting and printing when I could. It's amazing at the PhD level and graduate school level, and like they often like don't even let you buy the texts. You can't even print the texts. It's a digital that's online that you can read on a screen only. And you're like, this is crazy. The control that they're exhibiting, right? And so I've been wading through so much noise in order to establish a clear signal. And that's really like where all like a lot of this began. And I started using new tools like the epifluorescence microscopy. This is the epifluorescence unit. This allows us to see mycorrhizal fungi without stains for the first time ever. And it created the new arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi protocols. And so again, it's creating a momentum. These breakthroughs, I'm responding to them because momentum is a cycle. And we can lose momentum because we're not adding and treating and feeding that cycle that's making that momentum. And so identifying what those things are, for me, it's serving the community at a higher level. So when I feed into those things, I see my audience grow and I see their engagement grow. So as I stepped further into regenerative soil, I saw that engagement grow and my momentum grow. And so I served at a higher level with microscopy and it grew again. This is a surefire way to know that you're on the right track. When you give to your community and it gives back 10x or even louder, you know what I mean? Like that's a sign you're in growth. And so my momentum kept leading to these breakthroughs. In the middle of the Kickstarter, I figured out manual lighting. And so we have this ultra clear way now of showing roots that, I mean, roots look like they're made of little panes of glass. No one had discussed that before. And it makes perfect sense when you see those amazing, like headline science where they're like, plants conduct light into the soil around them, feeding microbes. And everyone's like, whoa. And no one asks really how. But when you see it properly, everyone's like, oh, of course. That's like a fiber optic cable. Yeah, that's what roots are. That's what plants are. They're going to trap the light from the sun and then conduct it. It's amazing. And so I got into this, and as I deeper I went, I started getting into DNA sequencing. My momentum carried me all the way into there, and I started, testing things. Found out that EM1 or the microbes that are in EM are found in compost. They're not bad. I found that like nematodes can change their mouth parts. I figured out the whole thing about how like naked amoebae are pathogenic for the most part. And testate are not. And so all this great compost that's coming out of Catalyst Bioamendments and Wormies and other people, where it's like is dominated by testate and amoebae. I mean, that's a new sign of health and safety for users. I was able to figure that out. I was able to figure out, you can't count all the bacteria. And so all those methodologies where everyone's counting there's a great majority of bacteria, depending on your context, especially in the soil, that, up to 50 to 70% can't be seen by light microscopy. You can use UV light, the epifluorescence, and go a little bit further. You can reach down to 1400, sometimes 1500 with UV light, not natural light, but then it's gone and then it's too far. And there are things smaller than that. So, so this is why people say, you can't see viruses. Yeah, and you can't see the bacteria that's small too. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people get these things confused, and I was able to provide that clarity and also provide solutions. Instead of counting the microbes, I stain for them and they absorb it or they don't. And I can compare even if I can't see them individually. Even if you've got colonies that are bunched up and it's impossible to count because they're all in these bunches, right? Because you can't separate them out. But now you can by just dying and allowing the microbes absorb the dye. So if there's a lot of microbes, the dye gets really fully absorbed and it's a dark slide. And they're individually lit up, so they're easy to actually identify and see their numeracy. But if we do that, if you want to count, just do ratios. This is the other thing I arrived at. All the other branches of science are simply using ratios because then they can cross contexts. So ratios scale up and scale down, and they stay the same ratio. When you multiply and go, you magnify differences and problems. If you create ranges and use them in ratio, everything's different. So I was able to do all this by following the thread of my momentum, by allowing for the momentum to be its own guide. And so I'm like, wow, people really want me to do microscopy. Wow, people really want me to step deeper into figuring out new protocols, new science, new testing. And so, doing the work first, that's the key to building momentum. You got to do the work. But it started before that with deep study and applying pragmatism, applying clarity, applying all these teaching standards and best practices, and lots of testing. And then it became working with mentors to clarify my understanding further. And also, working with someone like Dr. James White, I would come up with things and he'd be like, he has so much experience. He'd be like, huh, well, it could be this or that or that. And then I'm like, okay, well, how would we figure that out? He's like, oh, well, you need to let it go through its full life cycle. And I'm like, okay, okay. And then we're circling back like a week later with further pictures on what it looks like now. And it's like it is that feedback loop, that clarifying of understanding that was required to refine my momentum. And seeking clarity is always about reestablishing our alignment. And so it led me to the blue ocean strategy. It led me out of just teaching PDCs alongside all the other people teaching PDCs. Though I will have a PDC I'm starting next month if you're interested in that sort of thing. And it's a intense advanced program. It was the first advanced permaculture design program ever created. And it was the first one that was also online. So that's a lifetime community offer that's starting next month. Um, but I started there and I kept trying to refine permaculture. And then as I followed my momentum, it carried me out into an area where there was no one, where all the people that were related to it were constellations rather than where I was. And so they were islands in this ocean. And man, what I did was honor those islands and honor those peers, but I also transcended it by showing the principles behind their work and why their work worked. And since then, that book has become a bestseller. If you're in the UK, I don't know if it's still because it's minute to minute. Well, actually, I think it's hour to hour on Amazon with sales. But in December, we were number 3 in soil science in the UK. So that was pretty epic. And it's been a bestseller off and on. It's never displaced Gabe Brown's Dirt to Soil, though I think Todd Harrington can do that with his stories. I mean, my stuff isn't story based. My stuff's really focused on just exactly what it is. It's curriculum. They're guides. They're references. They are represent what they are. And I try to keep myself and stories and anecdotes like out of it entirely so that it's just exactly what you need. And I think it's been pretty effective. Uh, the course that accompanies the book, because my business model is I write books that accompany courses, and then lead to real action that makes the world a better place. And so we've got over 350 students in the microscopy course, almost 700 students in regenerative soil microscopy. There's a massive buzz now in the university and commercial science around what I'm doing. The regenerative soil book is being used in universities. I've had students be like, "This is so fun." You know, I just came out of my soil biology major and you were the main textbook. And I'm like, holy cow. You could have taken my course for a fraction of the money. Because you know how college is. Oh my gosh. So anyway, oh my gosh, it's so funny. So and you might ask, how did you do that? Well, by following the specific steps, formulas, and patterns and letting it build momentum, compounding, compounding, daily activities, daily posting, daily sharing, writing. It was not an accident. I planned it out, I wrote it out, and then was like 60% of like the goal forever. But I kept moving the goal higher, kept moving the goal higher. And so my like 60% is like a failure, right? In school. But guess what? If your goals are audacious enough and you get 60% of the way there and then you move it again and move it again and move it again, you're moving and you're accomplishing. And so don't worry about, if 40% of what you're doing is off the rails and not working, not serving you, you can change those things the next time around. And you're always going to find new things that you need to fix. So, so do that work. How do I know that this stuff works? Well, this is my 24th publication, that book. This is my fifth online this is my fifth online Our Future. We have, I believe, there's 16 online courses that I have now. I've done seven Kickstarters, two Indiegogos. I have been doing marketing since MySpace. Many of you are like, what's MySpace? Huh? Huh? I know. I know you're laughing. You're laughing. Thank you for laughing. Yeah, so I helped bands on MySpace with their marketing when I was young. And then I helped music labels and then I got out of that and hated the music industry. And then for 2 years didn't do anything with my social media and then came back to it and rebranded it all for permaculture. And then I like overnight lost 20,000 followers on Twitter and like, you know, you know, learned some things. Gardening's weird when if you're an alternative rocker. They're like, "Bro, you seem happy. What's wrong?" Right? Where's emo Matt? What's going on here? This seems altogether too wholesome. Yeah. Yeah, it was like that. And so if you guys go find some of those photos of me with a cringe and like I've got like, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing, but it's like that like emo smolder. The emo, I'm sad, but I'm smoldering. It's literally out there. It's embarrassing. I can't, it's the truth. Thought I was cool, had to learn some lessons. Had to hit my head on the ladder as I went up a little bit. Had to fall off a few times. Ah, but but I've been there. I have literally tried to sell things that were unsellable for years. I'm not just talking about my music that was unsellable. I still have the CD baby boxes with the CDs in them for my first album, which depressingly enough was called Never Ending Aftermath. Have some hope, Matt. Oh, emo Matt. Yeah, I know but we all were there. I mean, maybe not as bad as me, but we all were sort of there. I hope. Okay, fine. Maybe I was the worst. It's okay though. So I had to learn, I had to grow, and I started off in the music industry where nothing worked. People were doing Napster. Good luck trying to sell a CD in 2004, 2003. Good luck. Not going to happen. I know because I watched all these incredible bands come up and sell nothing. Quiet Hounds, Eric Toledo, Trance's Ark, unbelievable. And, Quiet Hound's still doing it, you know what I mean? But they've all got day jobs. So they're not selling CDs. And so I came from an industry where literally it was like bashing my head against a wall and accomplishing nothing. And also just the energy around a lot of that stuff was negative and wasn't edifying, wasn't uplifting, wasn't regenerative. And so I wasn't finding deep meaning in it. And when I walked away, I felt so liberated. I went to the garden and just worked in the gardens and healed. And this is 2007, 2010 time period, um, late 2007, early 2008 starting. And I also had seen the lead up to 2008 crash because I was a touring musician. So, and not only was I a touring musician, I was a touring musician in a band that was not popular. So guess what that means, you guys? We played in the small towns of America in the depressed areas, and I got to see how depressed it was. So we'd pull into a town and like the hotel like desk person, we would like get to come to we would rope into coming to the show, and like the housemaid or like the hotel maid, right? We would like and they're like part of the town, they're like everyone knew them at the bar, you know what I mean? There's like 12 people there. And then you start afterwards, you talk to these people and they're like, "This is amazing, you're here." And then you're like, "Wow, so how do you guys live?" And there's like one gas station, three fast food restaurants, one little hotel, and that's it. The school shut down, the hospital's gone. Remember, the hospitals started shutting, all those local hospitals started shutting down, you know, all those community services started shutting down when the families left. And the families were leaving earlier than 2008 crash. We drove out of Cleveland one year, and I know that's not a small town, but it's a depressed area. We drove out of Cleveland one time after playing the House of Blues in Cleveland, and um, I I was really excited to play the House of Blues, but the amount of homeless people was like a shock. And then as we were leaving town, there were all these beautiful townhouses, stone townhouses, and that were no lights for miles, no street lamps, and people were walking everywhere. And I was like, I'm a designated driver at this point, right? Because I'd stopped drinking. And I'm like freaked out because I'm like, they're in the road. Are they gonna like stand in the road and stop the car and jump us? What's gonna happen, right? And then it like sank in as after I left, like what that was. That's in an area that literally was blacked out. That's an area in 2008 that literally had no one could like own the houses. Their houses were abandoned. They're all living in them. And so there was no power. The whole area was occupied by people that, were just squatting. And that was 2008. And so I had this like wake up call too at that point about our society, about where we were going. And so I was like, I can't do the music industry anymore. Not only that, my friends in New York City, we'd watched from 2003 to 2008 the tips dry up. If you were in services, you know what I'm talking about. The tips dried up. Like you would work New Year's and you would get some of those big tippers. Like on New Year's, you get like a $50 tip or like sometimes even a $100 bill. Like crazy things would happen on New Year's in 2003, four, and five started to taper off. Six, much more so. Seven, it became clear something was wrong. And then 2008 crashed and everything bottomed out. And so I saw all this happening, and I really went within and started working on my family and resilience and making sure we had food growing. And then I changed everything over to doing promoting, marketing, and for that. And I did it while I was a public school teacher. And I did it after I got my master's degree. And I did it after my heart had changed. So I had already made the decision that I'm here as I am a community servant, that I'm here to help the community become better. I am a regenerative catalyst for my community and the people around me. Uh, and and that's what I was doing as a teacher. And so I just applied that with the book and it exploded. So I know this works. I've been doing for the past 10 years books and courses. And it's been incredible. You know, publicly, just with crowdfunding, I've raised over $200,000. And there's a formula behind that. And I don't break the formula because I know it works. And I just keep doing it. And because I keep establishing more momentum, every time I do it, it gets bigger. So I have students that you've met this week. Gavin Mounsey, Gavin Gardens, you might know him as, was my student in Advanced Permaculture Student Online, and he took regenerative entrepreneurs and experts. And then he used my formula for crowdfunding, Kickstarter, launched his first book, used the formula for writing, and I gave him feedback on his book and throughout the process to help him along the way. But of course, he did all the work. I'm just a sounding board at those times and a support if I can be. And Gavin did it. Gavin's an author now, and Gavin's a community member that is like he truly lives in that regeneration. You know what I mean? He's that feedback loop that feeds back in, you know? And Beth Healy is also another one of my students. And man, has she taken education for her niche to such amazing levels. And she also served and served and served, and everything she created was owned by that school, owned by that school. And now she's going independent, creating her own thing. It's such a joy to see. And Amy Landers, Gardens That Matter, she really valued this program and went to the other another level. She did regenerative entrepreneurs and experts. You also heard today from Sean Stanton. That's another one of my students, another one of regenerative entrepreneurs and expert students, and also advanced permaculture student online. Randy Young Villagas. He is also another student. He's a permaculture student of mine. Zach Weiss is here. Zach has taken my microscopy course. And if you guys know my books, I've been featuring Zach and the work that he does and the work that Sepp Holzer does throughout my career and throughout my courses. You guys know that I've learned from him as well as, and so it's this exchange. It's not just one, you know, I have an aspect that I can help him with, and I'm going to take his course on pond making and I, I need to clear the deck for that. And James has to. I mean, he's fighting every single weekend this month, so he has to win his world championship, and then we'll switch gears and start doing pond building and ranching together. But he's going to be he's on. Well, his whole plan is to become a world champion. And so Ben Missimer, Jeff Lawton's right hand man, that was one of my students. I was the one who gave him the information that he applied, and then reached out to Jeff. That whole thing where he sent the maps and all that stuff, I knew about that before it happened because we were talking about it in the course. So it's in these communities that I've been able to create that incubate this change in people. And you know, Tyler Heitzman, who spoke today, also another student of mine. Lucian Toma, he's also an original student of mine as well. It has been just an incredible honor. And also, you know, Ryan Noss uses all my materials to educate his clients. Jeff Williams, we talked about him. He's a student of mine that Ryan began working with. So when Ryan was like, well, he's been doing some great things beforehand, he's been applying the permaculture aspects as best he could, and then brought Ryan on to train his people to take it to another level. And Ryan also has created incredible products and delivery methods for farm scale that are amazing. And just like we're all these people have different strengths. Ryan is transitioning all these farmers. Todd Harrington is rescuing giant operations that are like toxic, huge problems, remediation. And everyone's using like compost or microbes or you know what I mean? And it that's how easy this is. And that's how powerful it is. And Mandy Quark. You guys have probably heard from Mandy Quark this time and before. I've given Mandy the writing book, and she's using that to write the book that she and Alan are working on in her own books. And so it really is about combining that community. Speaking of community, Cassandra Posey is calling right now. Cassandra was live with us with the entrepreneurship just like an hour ago. So it's this tight knit community, this momentum that we can create that creates momentum in others, that creates momentum in the movement. When you energize yourself, you have the power now to energize others. And then when you see that playing out, like Jeff said, he was looking for his first teacher. He's like, I'm looking to see someone who can replace me, looking to see someone who can do what I do. And that's the true sign that you actually taught at the level and resonance and energy that's needed for the momentum to translate to your students. Because that's really what you're translating. And I, I see it in my students, and I really, really, because of because of my teaching background, I really want it to be them. I've seen a lot of people create, copies, right? They're creating copies of themselves. And I don't want to do that at all. I want to unlock what's in you. And so everything that I'm doing is trying to unlock what's in you and connect you to your next level. So I I I I just am so grateful for all my students, for them doing the work and applying all the things I've been able to showcase, teach, and share. And I've seen it work, so I know it works. So the question to ask yourself at any level that you're at is what is my next level? Because whether you're actively seeking it or not, you know you want it, right? Whether you're consciously doing the steps and like Cassandra was just talking, she talked to us about all the steps. She is planning out, she is getting granular. What is it for you? What does that level up for you? What does that next level look like in terms of your mindset, in terms of your productivity? Because I'm here to tell you when you get your productivity up and it matches the need, you can do everything else easier because you're not living month to month. When I switched to Kajabi and launched Advanced Permaculture Student Online, that was the beginning of me not living month to month. You guys can like date that, right? You're like 2018, right? 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 Right. Yeah. So I was living month to month for the first 4 years because I didn't understand any of this stuff. And it was applying the things that I've been teaching all this week, applying the things that we're going to be learning in the mastermind together that allowed me to step into that. It accelerated my growth. And once I understood those elements, everything became easier. I mean, just what do you mean, Matt? What's the brass tack of that? Well, one aspect of that, well, all right, I'll say three aspects. One was my preparation. Do you guys know that for the Advanced Permaculture Student Online Kickstarter, I had a video for every single day of the 30 days already created and uploaded to YouTube. I had three unique memes that related to the launch for every single day to go in between the check out the Kickstarter, you know, and the video share. So I was like, boom, 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 boom. And it wasn't vanilla, vanilla, vanilla. It was chocolate, rocky road, French vanilla. Like I was like changing it up and it was already made. And it was so dialed in that I was like, and now I go on tour to spread the word. And I left the house with the computer. Crazy, right? I'm running a Kickstarter. You're driving on a tour, a speaking tour in the middle of a Kickstarter? This is insanity. Paul Stamets, I mean, not Paul Stamets, Paul Wheaton of Permies.com would be like, no, 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 no. Whoa. I made $45,000. But I also had the truck break down and I lost $13,000. So that was bad. But it all happened at the same time. And this is also a great moment for you guys to digest on is that I literally, in the same moment that I was being told that my truck was totaled and that they had done $3,000 worth of repairs for no reason other than just to bilk me of money. Thanks, Utah. They, it was so sketchy. They totally, and now that I'm older, I'm like, I don't know if that vehicle actually was totaled. I think they might have made me total it and sell it to them for nothing just to screw me. Anyway, I lost a ton of money all at once and I realized it and it was so devastating. I felt so stupid and irresponsible, you know? Because it's like I'm now cutting way into the money you just made, making it way harder to deliver on it. But I knew in that moment that didn't cancel itself out. The win wasn't canceled out by the failure. And so I literally go, and this video I think is still somewhere. I literally went live within like 2 minutes of finding out I lost $13,000 and won. Like the Kickstarter finished and it was like $45,000. We did it. We did it. And I had to like put things in their proper place, calm myself, release those things. Breathe it out and let it go. And then summon the energy and the excitement for the joy that all these people supported this so that this could happen. This beautiful moment, untainted by the thing that had just had happened. And also filled with the gratitude that ball socket and the thing that was basically the main shaft had broken and was pirouetting around and metal shavings were flying around and at any point it could have gone down up or in and then there was the ball joint on the actual wheel was breaking, so we had two like failure points that could have easily killed us. If one had broken, the other one would have gone too. And so I was like, Matt, you're lucky to be alive. You had your tiny son in there with you and all the books that you had printed and just be happy. And I put it away, I let it go and stepped into that joy. And so it is those habits, it is all that momentum, it's understanding where you're headed and understanding that you're gonna have to fight, you're gonna have to make sacrifices, you're gonna have to deal with obstacles to get through. And so I invite you to get trained, to step into that future and to handle those obstacles in a new way. The Regenerative Accelerator Mastermind starts this Thursday. It's going to be every third Thursday of the month. And we're going to go for 6 months. We're going to go for the first half of the year. This is the first time I've ever offered it. Might be the last time. We might continue it if enough people sign up and there's momentum behind it. And it's only $49 a month. It's a 6 month program and it's 2 to 3 hours of coaching every month. So a deeper dive version of what we did here. I have more energy when I'm not doing multiple lives a day, 5 days in a row. And so we'll be doing that. I'll be bringing it. We'll be in 2 to 3 hours of coaching, networking, Q&A. Get the support, the recharge, the reframing, the realignment, the renewal that you need monthly to stay on the path. Whether it's the mindset training that you need, whether it's the reminder, the accountability that you need, or whether you need to do the work, but you also need to share it with someone because there's no one in your life that wants to talk about these things. They all think you're kind of crazy because that's, what I dealt with for many, many years. I would bring things up and people would be like, huh? I'd be like, oh, all right, well, you know, and finally people are open to it. Finally, people are excited about it. And that's what I'm offering is for you to dive into a community that can give you that clarity by helping you do the work. So, and then also there's a bonus. If that wasn't enough, I have a $500 value 9 week self-paced course, Regenerative Entrepreneurs and Experts, the exact course that Lucian, Randy, Amy, Sean, Gavin, and Beth, and Ben, and so many people that we've talked to and you've heard about have taken. So that is a bonus. And that has everything from my equipment to how I edit my videos to how I write my books, the formula behind my book writing process, to the actual printer's email to use my printer, the one that Jeff Lawton connected me with back in the day. You actually get their contact information. I trust in you guys. Be nice to them because they are amazing. And so everything from my crowdfunding formula to my mindset training, from the all the fundamentals, all of it begins in there. And so that program is something that has 1,200 people in it, and they have found incredible value from it, and I know you will too. And I know if you do the work with us this next 6 months, that it will be transformative because I know that this is what transformed me and continues to transform me to that next level, that next horizon. So, mindset, routines, habits, frameworks for success, online marketing, courses, books, events, crowdfunding, book writing, presenting and speaking, community building, networking, business design and development, and scaling. Because scaling our business is so incredibly important because you can hit your tipping point or your ceiling very easily, depending on how you design it. And that's why you have people like Cassandra delegating, partnering with people, partnering with farmers so that she can scale. And that's why she's able to have her products in PCC because she has a network that she relies upon to make that possible. I hope that you join us for 6 months of deep diving, of personal development, of business development, of clarity. And you get to keep each live. You get that $500 course that has been so transformative to so many people. And if I know if you do the work, you will feel a difference. You will see a difference because it's just alignment. You're getting your things organized, and that always helps. And of course, I can't guarantee that you'll make money. That's actually illegal. So you guys should know that if someone is telling you on the internet that they can guarantee you can make money, they're not a person to trust because that's illegal. Same thing with investments of any sort. If someone trying to get you to invest in some new thing, you just keep that in mind. I can provide the pieces that if you do the work will transform your life. I can provide the pieces that I know have helped so many people transform their businesses. I can provide you the principles behind why things work and showcase how they work and help you see the principles and apply them to yourself. But you got to do the work. And It's only $49 a month. I hope that you join us. It's going to be incredible. And if you're like, that's too much, a tank of gas, is more than that, right? But if that's too much, know that this information, and this is probably, I mean, depending on how it goes, this is definitely, it might be the only time I offer this, because, this same information costs $1,000 to $3,000 a month. Just for like a one live a month with this information, it's like $1,000. Yeah. So from my mentors, and this information will never be free. It's way too valuable. And I paid out over $30,000 to acquire this information and to get that interaction so that I could figure it out to that next level. And it's paid for itself over and over and over again. I hope you join us. It starts Thursday. I'm going to grab the link now for you guys. And so you can sign up right now if you feel called. Here we go. Here's the link now in the chat. This may be the last time I do it. Maybe this is the first time I'll do it. It really depends on if everyone signs up and shows up and the energy we bring to it. I know this audience. I know you guys bring that energy. It's just really about having enough people join us. You also get that $500 value, as well as I'm gonna add in as a surprise bonus right now. It just occurred to me. I'm gonna add in the regenerative intensives from the past 2 years of our future. If you guys attended those, uh, they were very, very small, very, very exclusive. Very few people came to those, but they're so jam-packed with value. So I'll be adding those in as an extra bonus. So much training, so much insight, and only $49 a month. This program is like no other. We're gonna have Q&As, we're gonna have group work, we're gonna have breakout rooms, and it's full 6 months to carry you with that momentum so that you can build it month after month with your feet wet, right? It's not like I'm teaching you and you go away and then you're like gonna go do the meditation. No, no, no. We're checking in every month. You're like, yeah, I've been trying to do the motivation. I'm struggling with this. I can help you. And you'll find in your group work that you do, you say what you need help for, and someone in that group's going to be like, "Oh yeah, I went through that. This is how you get to the next level." And that's what we're doing for each other. In a mastermind, we really let each other and help each other level up. If you want to take 2025 to a new level, I hope that you join us. I hope that you do the work. I hope that you invest in yourself. Hope that you take the time to ask your why, ask your how, to write it down, to write it all out, to dream big, to go 10x, and to stay in alignment this year. That's that's the most important thing. I don't care how fast you go. If you stay in alignment, you will enjoy and value the journey, and such in such a way that it will be regenerative, not just for you but for everyone around you. And just like we were talking about this week, you know what I mean? Sometimes things take time, and it's not about, the immediacy of it. It's about the quality of it. And Cassandra was just talking about how, we want really good soil so our trees grow really, really well. If we just want really, really good trees and try to jump to that and forget the soil, we just cost ourselves everything. So let's double down. Let's work on that together this year. Let's work on our next levels. Let's let's stay sharp with our businesses, our life. Let's stay on target. Let's stay in the groove. Let's level up. I'm Matt Powers. I appreciate you all so much. The link again is in the chat, and the link is also below the section of the course, and I'll be emailing it out to you later this week. And I hope you join us. It's very inexpensive. It is my gift. And I just hope that we have a big group, because it's going to be so incredible, especially if we have that the ability to always be meeting new people every time. That's such a powerful thing. So please join us. I'm Matt Powers. Thank you for being here. This was Our Future 2025. All right, guys.
It'll be a great
Part of
group.
it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Matt.
love.
Happy New Week.
Thanks, Matt.
XO.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Matt. See you Thursday.
Thank you.
Thursday.
See you Thursday, Matt.
Thanks, everyone.
You're amazing.
Hi, Ryan.
Have a great night. And thank you all. Thank you all so much. I'll see you Thursday.
You too.
Thank you, Matt. See you Thursday, buddy.